All right, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and we got a lot brewing behind the scenes for you here, Marvel Snap fans. Before we get started, I need you to like and sub. I'm going to tell you the number one new deck in the game, according to Moyen, and I'm going to explain to you who Moyen is and why I think you should listen to that. In addition, I've got a homebrew that I think has real potential and works its way around a lot of the meta. If you like Sera Miracle, stay tuned. Let's talk about Moyen's number one deck. Moyen claims that this is the best deck in the game. He is currently winning tournaments with it. Moyen is the single most successful tournament player in Marvel Snap. He farms tournaments. He wins major tournaments, he wins minor tournaments. He is absolutely a beast. This is his tournament deck. He claims it's good on ladder. We're going to take a look at why momentarily. But the other reason you should listen to Moyen is, remember Yu-Gi-Oh? All right. Lambie is on our podcast that should have released right around when this releases. So Lambie is a Thanos player. He's built every Thanos deck you've ever seen in this game. He's brilliant. He's a former Hearthstone Grandmaster. He considers himself the Seto Kaiba to Moyen's Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how good Moyen is. It's like he's got an ancient being telling him how to play the cards. That's why when he releases a deck and says it's the number one, we have to stop our plans. We have to change our plans in order to talk about it. While Moyen is a big deal in the community, he's a big deal in the competitive side of the community. He's not your TLSG. He's not your KM best. So everyone is not immediately playing the deck he said is the best, which gives us our competitive advantage. That's what we do here. We find you that competitive advantage so that you always have the right deck to climb with. Here's what makes this deck special. The meta right now is largely three different things. Those things are: one, high evolutionary decks. This goes bigger than high evolutionary without too much trouble as a general rule. Nice and simple. If you're having trouble with high evolutionary, your change is really simple. You make Super Skrull be Iron Man, and that negative matchup becomes a positive matchup. They have very limited things that they can give negative power because you have invisible. One of the other major meta pillars is Galactus. Single best counter to Galactus in the game right now is Debris. You think they're going to Galactus, you play Debris, you win. In addition, if they do get off their Galactus, their goal is usually to null. You've got Super Skrull, who is the size of null plus Galactus in that lane. It's a great way to beat turn 5 Galactus as well. This deck survives Enchantress better than basically any other Patriot list. It does so largely thanks to Invisible Woman. You can play your Patriot and eventually your Onslaught or Blue Marvel, etc. behind that Invisible Woman. If they play a Cosmo, you can Super Skrull, play Patriot behind that. It keeps your buffs safe and protected. Lastly, the real genius of this deck and the reason it works, an idea I stole for my deck at least partially, is Invisible Woman plus Killmonger is the death of Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde is the best way to go tall in the meta right now, and going tall wins games in Marvel Snap. You go tall in two lanes. You have a Kitty in one lane and, I don't know, a bunch of junk ones in the other, stuff like the Hood and so on. And then that Killmonger reveals, no matter what, last with Invisible Woman, because it's the end of the game, and wrecks your opponent's board. You could even, if you needed that Debris, play Killmonger behind Invisible Woman, then Debris behind Invisible Woman on the last turn of the game, guaranteeing that your ones survive while the opponent's ones are dead. Everything else here is fairly self-explanatory. Iron Lad works as a double of basically all the powerful cards. Iron Lad on Sinister or Brood is a massive amount of power. It's 12 if it hits Sinister. It's a massive 18 if it hits Brood. It can hit, obviously, Patriot. Like, there's just not a bad hit for Iron Lad in this deck, fundamentally. You'd rather it not hit Wasp, but that your downside is that he's a thing. Fundamentally, every other hit opens up options, makes your deck more powerful. That's basically every card. Doom goes wide with things that have no abilities. Onslaught doubles your Super Skrull, Blue Marvel, or Patriot, and Wasp is just a 0 cost. Super Skrull is here largely for the mirror match. It automatically wins your Patriot mirror matches. Again, if Patriot is not what you're preying on, I strongly urge you to change that Super Skrull for a Iron Man. This deck is incredible. Typical gameplay looks like something like no play on 1, Invisible Woman on 2, ideally Patriot behind that on 3. Then you are playing Iron Lad into not Patriot on 4, hopefully hitting Sinister or Brood. On 5, if they are playing 1s, you're dropping Killmonger and something else behind that Invisible Woman. If not, you want to drop Blue Marvel. You want to drop basically the best thing you have at that point to gain a bunch of power. Turn 6, you're choosing, but you have to do a little bit of math to choose between Doom and Onslaught. Don't be afraid, in addition, to just play 2 of your 3s if you think that's a better way to get more power on them. Check this deck out. It's crazy, crazy powerful. Its win rate on Marvel Snap Zone is like 62%. It's lower at like 56% on Snap Fan, but this is a winning deck. You're going to have to practice with it. You're going to have to retreat sometimes when you don't have the nut draw, but it is the rare deck that you can bluff with, and your opponent has to be wary. And it handles the meta. Right, this deck, combined with a different idea I had, led me here. I wanted a kitty deck that beats other kitty decks and beats Wave. So the best home for Sera, as our friend Cam Best always says, the best home for Sera in the current meta is the best home for Killmonger in the current meta is Sera. I started with the concept of a Sera deck. I'm talking to Turbo, one of our friends on our Discord, and he hits Infinite with Sera Miracle every single season. Some Sera Miracle control cell. So he's trying to figure out how to survive all the waves he's seeing. And for whatever reason, as I'm thinking of this morning, I was like, oh, why are we not just playing Magik? If we play Magik on 5, their wave goes off, we just play 1 card on 6 and move their lives, right? This works great. It's nice and simple. And then you can have your Miracle turn on turn 7. How do we maximize our power then? We maximize our power with our Kitty Pryde, Angela, Bishop combos. We also have the option to play Shang-Chi or Enchantress to ruin whatever they're trying to do. If they start playing big stuff, you'd rather not play Invisible Woman too early in this deck. But if they start playing big stuff, you can drop Invisible Woman, and then if you've read their deck properly, you can play Shang or Enchantress behind them to end game shock beat them. It's really great. Invisible Woman also does a wonderful job of losing initiative. You can hide basically any power in the deck besides Angela and Bishop right behind her, and Kitty keeps returning to hand. So any other power in the deck, including the always lovely Zero Mysterio, ends up not really appearing until the end of the game. So it's really easy to lose initiative, getting extra value from your Shang and Enchantress. The Killmonger revealing at the end of the game, just on the last turn, make sure you have a spot still behind Invisible Woman. Say on turn 7, with Sera out, you play Killmonger behind Invisible Woman, and then you play Kitty. Ideally, you have Nova elsewhere. Now, Killmonger is going to reveal. It's the end of the game. Their Kitty is still out. Kill their Kitty, and then you get the benefit of keeping your Kitty. Nova's out, then your whole board gets +1. Other major combos are Kitty on Angela over and over for a massive amount of power. Both Kitty and Mysterio giving Bishop a crazy amount of power throughout the game. And then that ideally last turn, although it also works behind Invisible Woman because it'll count everything you play on the last turn at the end of the game. You have that idea of Hit Monkey behind Invisible Woman. So a common play line for this deck would be something like Kitty into Angela or Invisible Woman. Into, if you have Angela, Kitty on Angela as many times as you can, or Bishop. At that point, on turn 4, you're just trying to get 2 things down if possible. If one is Hit Monkey behind Invisible Woman, that's a really great time for that. On turn 5, you want a Magik. On turn 6, you want a Sera. And on turn 7, you want to go off. This should beat all the big Hulk things because you've got Shang-Chi, you've got a giant Kitty Pryde. That gets much bigger than most of the High Evolutionary negative decks. You're also keeping very little on the board early, so you should be able to outpower those decks. This should be good enough to get around the other Kitty decks because you've got the Invisible Woman Killmonger combo. This should be enough to get around fundamentally everything. You can even handle an Invisible Woman Patriot. If you can throw initiative and you've read that they're Patriot, if they've played, say, a Sinister and then an Invisible Woman, You can throw your invisible woman down and put Enchantress behind. You're going to have to try and throw priority at the end of the game, but at that point, your Enchantress will still get rid of all of their stuff in a phenomenal fashion. Finally, this even has some power against bad locations with Magik. Naturally, I did what I always do whenever I have a new deck. I went and talked to Safety. Safety's not sure Nova's right in the deck. He wants to try Jeff. I'd really like to fit either Bast or America Chavez. This is far from a refined list, but early returns are promising, and I really urge you to try out this extremely powerful combo. All right, thank you so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow for another Snap Take. Don't forget to hit that sub button. We appreciate your support.